And we welcome you inside the America First Event Center on a Friday night for some college gymnastics on ESPN Plus as the 17th ranked Thunderbirds play host to an MRGC foe in the Broncos of Boise State. Good evening, everyone. Great to be back with you. Spencer McLaughlin, Megan McBride, Maddie McBride next to her. A couple of great teams inside the AFAC once again. And though Boise State, Megan, technically unranked coming into this dual meet, it's not a team that's going to perform like an unranked one.
No, it's definitely a team to be contended with. They scored a 197 last week at a quad meet away on the road, and that's the same score that SUU scored last week as well. So it's going to come down to the little details tonight.
Boise State competing in this, their 6th meet of the year. Their first was canceled. They got a little bit late start that is, scheduling wise, and now they will be able to qualify for a top 25 position perhaps. And Maddie, this is a team that is capable, at least with their averages right now and the talent that they have, of being in the top 20 nationally.
Absolutely. You see any team coming off a 197 from their previous meet, and you can count on them being ranked for sure.
Tina Bird is in her 3rd season as the head coach, but she has been on this staff for over 30 years. On the other side, Scotty Bauman in his 31st season. It's alumni night. I've got 2 of them for SUU sitting next to me on the broadcast. I'm very thankful that I do as well, and I'm sure all of you at home feel the same way, but they'll be honoring Coach Bauman tomorrow. Of course, they weren't able to do that in 2020, but both of you were athletes, were gymnasts under Scotty Bauman. And just a little bit, start with you, Megan, about the type of coach he is and, you know, what it means that he's been here for 30 years.
Yeah, you know, he's had a lot of experience under his belt, but the best thing about Scott is that he puts you as a person first before he puts you as a gymnast. That's his priority #1.
And he has done an exceptional job, such a pillar of the community here in Cedar City. And Tina Bird on the other side, she's got 30 years under her belt. This is just her 3rd as the head coach, but she was the co-head coach for 12 seasons. She's had a lot of success with her program up in Boise. Maddie, this is a relatively young head coach technically, but one who really coaches her team like a veteran.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, we'll take a pause. When we come back, we will continue to preview the matchup, take you right up to the first event inside the AFAC. College gymnastics coming at you next. That was my fault, Maddie. I'm sorry.
You're good. I was like, I don't know how to say anything.
No, that was my fault.
I was like, for sure, yeah. She's done good stuff. I didn't know that, though. That's good to know.
Yeah, she was the co-head coach for 11 years before being named the solo head coach in 2020.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So she was a coach for a while for the Bronco Elite Gymnastics Academy. What does that mean?
I'm guessing that that's a club team in Boise, but I'm not sure.
Copy, 1 minute.
There are lots of ways we help others every day. Need another? Donate plasma at one of our Griffith centers. Did you know that your blood plasma can be used to make medication? People all over the world rely on them. That's why the plasma donations are needed more than ever.
Coming out of this, Maddie, I'll lead you in with the fact that this is Southern Utah's 8th meet of the year and Boise State's 6th, and whether that's, you know, really a big difference or anything like that.
Okay. At SUU, there's personalized student first approach.
Yeah, we'll keep. Yeah, and then we'll go into other stuff.
It's active, engaging, hands-on, and truly embodies the SUU model that learning lives forever.
College at SUU is so much more than simply going to class and coming home to do homework.
Students and faculty at SUU prioritize cooperation and collaboration rather than competition.
You matter here and have a voice at SUU.
Now the 4-minute touch period has begun. Southern Utah will open the meet on vault per usual. Boise State on the bars. And Maddie, this is a Boise State team that is coming off of a really strong performance a week ago, but this is only their 6th meet of the year, which is a decent amount of experience, but we consider that it's Southern Utah's 8th. Do you think that'll play into how these teams are approaching this meet, or how you'd expect them to perform?
I would say maybe a little, but I mean, the way Boise's been competing this season, it looks like they've got a strong lead up of meets coming into this one, but it's always good to have a few extra meets under your belt just to continue on in the season to build on scores you've already had. And both teams have been building as this season has gone on. They each put up a 197 away from home a week ago. Boise State back on the road once again. Southern Utah here at home, where they're 3-0 in dual meets this year with Arizona, BYU, and Utah State. And Megan, particularly when you get to the floor routine, it's always an advantage being at home. But what does it feel like as a gymnast when you go on the road, set a school record 197,
at BYU last week. Granted, in a loss to the Cougars, but you set a program record away from your home gym. Now you come back home. How confident does that leave you feeling as a gymnast?
You're going to feel super confident coming into your next meet, especially when you're coming back to your home arena, somewhere that you're comfortable with. And it's good to mention that, you know, they came away with a loss last week, but it's really hard to say you came away with a loss when you had multiple school records last week. You know, the 197 away score, a new bar record, and also a lot of individual personal records as well.
A 49.45 on bars, the best mark in school history. That 197, a number that any gymnastics coach would be happy with. Even these two, Maddie, who both have very high expectations for their teams and very high standards, but that's why their programs have been so successful as of late.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the goal is to go 9.8, 9.85 or higher for each individual gymnast, which gets you in the mid 196 range, but you get above and beyond that 197, and that's just a thrilling score to get for any team.
Well, BYU under third-year head coach Tina Bird has been exceptional. She was the co-head coach for 11 years with Neil Resnick, and they had an exceptional run, 9 conference championships, 5 regional appearances, a bunch of school records. It's a similar situation that Coach Bauman and Jeff Richards and the rest of this staff, Jamie Weissong, are in as well, where they just seem to be rewriting the history books year after year. Megan, they've done it once again, and every meet kind of has that feel where you just never know when it's going to come next.
You know, the excitement that builds before they salute for the first time on vault, you can feel it because these two teams are top tier. So just elite gymnastics here tonight, so we're excited to see what happens.
We're set to get underway. Our first event of the night, our first competitor, Haley Voltaggio on the vault.
Wow, she had serious height on that Yurchenko full. Just a slight hop. You can see she's excited. We're also excited up here. Great vault to start off the Thunderbirds.
She's coming off a 9.725 last week, just a touch under her season average. And our first bar worker of the evening will be Talia Little, the sophomore from the Rochester Gymnastics Academy in New York. A 9.8 last week, averaging just 9.64 on the bars this year. A career best of 9.9, capable of being an excellent athlete for Coach Bird.
Beautiful Maloney-Pat connection right there. A little short on that pirouette handstand, but she'll be winding up for this dismount and should finish off a great routine. You love to see when they hold that handstand at the top. There's no doubt that they hit that. Just the smallest little hop on that double A, but they should be happy about that start off.
So a couple of good-looking routines for both of these squads tonight. Our second vault of the evening is Stephanie Tervort, a season-high 9.825 in this event a week ago.
Up next on the vault for Southern Utah, Stephanie Tervort.
Stephanie is such a dynamic vaulter. Both these last two vaults have gotten huge height. The Thunderbirds are really going for that height tonight. Great vault by Stephanie Tervort.
And we head back over to the bars, and the visiting Broncos of Boise State will be sure to give you scores as they roll in. Our second bar worker of the evening is Courtney Blackson, who will be competing in the all-around tonight. Has not done that yet this year. And Megan, going into a night where you know you're going to compete in the all-around, is there anything that changes mentally with your approach on that first event?
If you're doing it right, there really shouldn't be. You just need to take it one event at a time and focus on what you're doing in the moment, and that's just going to lead up to a higher all-around score.
Well, she had a 9.825 on her uneven bars routine a week ago in the quad meet win up in Palo Alto. She'll look to improve upon that here.
Whoa, very unique release move right there. Great height right there. Winding up for that dismount. Nailed that landing. That should be a great score for Boise State.
Blackson, the sophomore from Elk Grove, California, one of 3 sophomores and 8 underclassmen on the roster. And back over to the vault we go with Morgan Alfaro, a 9.825 a week ago on her vault routine.
Morgan's such a solid vaulter for Southern Utah. Excited to see what she pulls off tonight. Just a little rebound on that vault, but all together such a good vault for Morgan tonight. Should be happy with that vault.
And the reigning MRGC Vault Specialist of the Year. Just a touch with the hop at the end, but Southern Utah, from an amplitude perspective, looking very strong here on the vault in the early going.
Definitely. All 3 vaults so far have been really high on the height there, and good control on the landings.
Thunderbirds come in the 16th best vault team in the country, averaging a 49.057. And back over to the bars.
When you're watching a bar routine, you're going to want to watch for a few things. You're going to want to watch those handstands, dynamic height on those release moves. Oh, it looks like she missed that bar just by a little bit.
And this is Maddie Nilsson, the 6th-year senior from Las Vegas, competing. Not a common mistake you see from such an experienced and talented gymnast who matched her career high with a 9.9 a week ago on the uneven bars. 2nd time she's notched that score this season.
It's always hard to fall in the middle of a routine because you have to get back up and finish, but she nailed that handstand right there, so it looks like she's moved past it and is ready to hit the rest of this routine. Beautiful dismount. She got right back up and finished that great routine for her team.
And how hard is that to do, to be able to, go over, you get to re-chalk your hands and gather yourself, but then to have to go back and finish that routine seems like a challenging thing to be able to accomplish.
It's tough because you're disappointed about that fall, but you got to put yourself up for your team.
This is Rachel Smith on the vault, and she looks pleased with her performance right there. Maddie, how'd she do?
So great. She had great control on that landing. You see just a little step back. She does a unique vault, a round off entry, full on back handspring tuck off. It looks like she is going for the tuck tonight, but still a good start value and great vault for the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, she's one of 3 flippin' birds to have a 10.0 start value on her vault routine. And so after the fall from Maddie Nilsson, the senior from McKinney, Texas, and the World Olympic Gymnastics Academy, Alexis Stokes, off of a 9.9 last week. Boise State definitely looking for a score in that range. A 9.825 in for Little. Blackson a 9.875, and we're still awaiting the official ruling for Nilsson after the fall. But anytime you have a fall like that in the middle of an event, it becomes even more critically important for every gymnast to perform down the stretch.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when you have those scores building initially and then you have a fall. It kind of breaks off that momentum. But it looks like they're putting up Alexis Stokes, who is a solid competitor and a senior, so she should be awesome on this routine.
She is the reigning Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Bars Specialist of the Week. She's had a 9.9 or higher 3 weeks in a row on the uneven bars. Boise State needs her to deliver right here.
Beautiful chapache to a bail. You don't normally see a chapache. She did a free hip into that release move instead of a toe on. Solid landing. That's exactly what you want to see after a fall. So it looks like they're going to get that momentum building again.
Back over to one of the 20th best vaulters in the country, the senior from Rosemead, California, and San Gabriel High School, Caitlin Cash Money Coe, they call her.
Caitlin's another one of the Thunderbirds with a 10.0 start value vault. She'll do a Yurchenko 1.5. Oh, and she had some extra power out of that one. You see she just took 2 extra steps, but the form in the air was beautiful. Again with the height. Still a great vault for Caitlin Coe.
Now, when you talk to head coach Scotty Bauman about Caitlin Coe, he will rave about the power she has as a gymnast, and a little bit too much there. She's not able to quite stick the landing, but that just goes to show you how strong of an athlete she is.
Absolutely. You see her on vault and generally on the floor routine, and she has some power. She really goes into those vaults and tumbling with lots of power. It's fun to watch.
Next up on the uneven bars for head coach Tina Bird and the Broncos of Boise State, another sophomore, Emily Lopez, a 9.85 a week ago, averaging a 9.895 this season. And you know you've had a strong campaign thus far when a 9.85 is below your season average.
Yeah, very impressive. Beautiful cast to handstand right there. Blind change into a pike Jaeger. Very clean. Bail to handstand. From where I'm sitting, there's really not much wrong so far. Winding up for that dismount. And a stuck landing. I really don't know if there was much wrong with that routine. You can tell she's excited about that.
Her career best is a 9.925. We'll see if she approaches that number. The final vault of the night belongs to Anna Hartley for the Flippin' Birds. A late lineup addition for Coach Bauman.
Awesome ball for Anna. Wow, amazing Yurchenko full. Nice control on that landing. And I believe her first time competing here in the AFEC. So huge congratulations to her. What a great vault to start off her career here in the AFEC.
The scores right now for Southern Utah: Voltaggio a 9.825, Stephanie Tervort an even 9.8, 9.775 for Morgan Alfaro, Rachel Smith a 9.875, and we're awaiting the final two. Boise State's got 3 scores up on the board: a 9.875 from Blackson, a 9.825 from Little. The fall from Maddie Nilsson yielded a 9.125, likely to be the score that they drop. And rounding things out, Emily Mullenhop, the 5th-year senior from Castle Rock, Colorado, was the Bars champion a week ago up in Palo Alto when she scored a 9.95. Still not a career high for her because she has put up a 9.975 before. A really talented Bars worker.
She is just so beautiful to watch, so I'm just not going to say anything and let you guys watch. Nails that landing. Maybe just a little bit short on one of her handstands, but other than that, that was a beautiful routine.
And it looked like in that first rotation, Southern Utah on vault and Boise State on the bars. The Broncos certainly have the advantage, maybe not on the scoreboard, but certainly when it comes to their landings.
Yeah, it looks like they nailed almost all of their landings, 5 out of 6 at least, so that's what you want to see.
We will take a pause, and when we come back, we'll have some updated scores. Then we'll get to rotation number 2. The night is just getting started here in Cedar City. Back after this.
Hi, this is Chris Holmes, voice of the Thunderbirds. If you're looking for a new job, join the Chrysalis team and make a difference in the lives of people with disabilities.
Yeah, she looked pretty good.
Chrysalis is looking for people who care and are willing to help others.
Stokes got a
9.9. Teacher and friend to those with disabilities or challenges. Get paid to have fun. Flexible schedules, competitive pay, and benefits. Join Chrysalis in Cedar City and get paid to make a difference. Apply online at chrysalis.care. That's chrysalis.care.
Oh my gosh, Emily Lopez got a 9.95.
Yeah, so did Emily. So good.
Let's see. Is on the road. Boise State just doesn't seem to be bothered away from home after setting a season high on bars a week ago with a 49.45. They come right back this week, a 49.5 on the road. How about setting that tone here with the first rotation, Megan?
That's very impressive, just anywhere they compete, whether you're at home or away. They did have one fall, but they came right back after that with 2 9.95s to round out their rotation, so they should be super happy with that and ready to go to vault.
And this was the bars routine of Emily Lopez, who sets a new career high with a 9.95, and she looked absolutely in control from the get-go.
Just no doubt on that landing. So much confidence, and her feet didn't even move.
Southern Utah 49.075 on vault to open. That right about at their season average, and they were led by what ended up being their highest score. Haley Voltaggio, Maddie, got them off to a really nice start.
It's always so impressive when a vaulter starts off their team with the highest score of the rotation. You know that's not the easiest thing to do, especially with the first routine out of the whole meet. Haley Voltaggio's vault was so controlled, huge height. It was a great vault altogether for Voltaggio tonight.
A 9.825. She sets a career high as well. And there were multiple Thunderbirds and Broncos a week ago who set individual career highs. We've mentioned they set season highs, and that's just continuing here tonight. And Megan, we've talked about the prowess of both of these programs and their coaches who have been around for such a long time. Coach Bird, just her third as the head coach, but has been on staff for over 30 years. And you want, as a coach, to see your team peak as you get later in the year. Both teams trending in that direction.
Yeah, and that's exactly where you want these teams to be right now. You know, SU being eight meets in, Boise being 6, but it's kind of rounding out near the end of season, almost moving towards that MRGC championship. So this is exactly where they want to be.
And this is an MRGC conference meet. Now, that doesn't mean a whole lot per se, because it's all about your scores at the end of the day. Because when you take a look at the MRGC standings right now, to the untrained eye, Maddie, they're a little bit wacky. You've got the 12th ranked team, the 14th ranked team, then you've got the 69th ranked team who's got a higher average than the 17th ranked team that's below. It's all over the place, and gymnastics just about the scores.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting with Boise not getting able to compete in their first meet, but with the averages they've been getting this season and the scores they've gotten in their previous meets, you just know they're going to be ranked right around the same range all the rest of the MRGC teams are this week. If
Boise State could be ranked in the top 25, which they will be after this meet, and certainly off to a very strong start with a 49.5 on their bars routine, they would be ranked 14th in the nation right now, but you have to have competed in at least 6 meets, and their schedule just started a little bit later. Their first meet was canceled, so now here they are at meet number 6, but it certainly looks from where we are sitting that they have been able to put all that aside. None of it matters. They're just focusing on the task in front of them. And Boise State, second straight week on the road, not an easy thing to do, but they're doing very well.
No, it doesn't look like it's even faced them. If I hadn't known they'd only competed 6 meets, I would have thought that they were on the same level. So really impressive.
They have been absolutely sharp. They approach the school record of 49.575 on the bars. They come up at an even 49.5, and though you always want to see history made, Maddie, that's not something that Coach Bird is going to be thinking about when she looks at that score. She's just going to feel very good about the routine her athletes put forward.
Absolutely, and especially when you have a fall in that mix, just to have those teammates at the end of those lineups just to get back up and to not only hit their routines, but hit it at a 9.95 standard, that's just something absolutely incredible and something that they'll rely on, that confidence, to get them through the end of the season.
And Boise State is having a dual meet here with Southern Utah. Second time these two schools have met this season. Southern Utah fell up in Boise. Neither school even reached a 195, and it just goes to show you that it can take you a few weeks to kind of work out the kinks in individual routines and kind of get that team chemistry building, because neither one of these teams, with the way that they've been performing the last couple of weeks, could even imagine scoring under a 195. But it happened back on January the 28th in Boise State's first meet of the year, with Southern Utah's lowest score of the season, and it very much looks like it'll stay that way for both teams.
Yeah, you know, I want to say that it's hard to be at an away meet, but then you see a meet like last week at BYU where they score a record-breaking 197. So sometimes you just go to a meet and it can feel off, or you're tired, and you know, it was the beginning of season, so you're still getting those kinks out. So I don't think that's going to be in the near future for either of these teams for the rest of the season.
197, one of the 5 best scores in school history for Southern Utah and Boise State, a record for the Flippin' Birds away from the AFEC where we are. Getting set for rotation number 2. The Thunderbirds will be over on the uneven bars with a very high bar to match, set by Boise State with the 49.5 to open. And the Broncos will head over to the vault, which has been their second best event by average this year at about 49.06. And first up on the vault is Hope Maciado.
Huge Yurchenko full by Hope. Just so dynamic. I don't know, it just looked like she floated that full through the air. Pretty good control on the landing as well. Great way to start off the Broncos for a vault rotation.
Maciado off a season low 9.55 on the vault a week ago. Certainly in a good position to improve upon that. This is the first bar worker of the night for Coach Bauman, and it is Nikki Thomas, who often leads this event for the Thunderbirds, and you see why. She is a very talented bar worker.
Nikki is a great person to lead off this bar team. She's very dynamic in her release moves, nails those handstands, and we're about to see how well she does this dismount. And she finds the landing like glue. So easy for her, and that's a great way to start off the bar rotation.
And the crowd knows it as Chuck goes flying through the air with all the high fives. And Maddie Nilsson, after falling on the uneven bars, steps up to the vault off of a season high 9.825 in this event a week ago. And she's looking for a little bit of redemption after her first event of the night.
It can be hard sometimes to go to that second event after you've fallen on the first, but if you're doing it right, you're in the zone and just focusing on the event at hand. And she did just that. Beautiful vault by Maddie. She got really great distance, which is something you want to look for on vault. And you'll see on the replay just a little bit of a hop at the end, but overall great vault. So straight in the air as well. Just barely a pike down to give her that hop at the end.
6th-year senior in her final year of college gymnastics, making the most of it. Second bar worker of the night, the reigning 2021 MRGC Freshman of the Year from Ames, Iowa, Aubrey Schwartz, a 9.8 a week ago on her bars routine.
She's a great person to put in this next spot. Huge piked Jaeger right there, leading into a great handstand. Like I was saying earlier, you're looking for those handstands, those big dynamic release moves, and of course at the very end, that stuck dismount. Which she just did. Lawn dart landing by Aubrey Schwartz, and altogether a great routine for the Flippin' Birds.
I don't know what's in the air here in the America First Event Center, but we've seen 7 bar routines, and I believe 6 almost perfectly stuck landings so far.
That's exactly what you're going to expect from these top-ranked teams.
Another sophomore, Emily Lopez, is up. A 9.85 last week on her vault, matched a season high. She's done it twice this year. Will look to do it again. And she was the star of the bars routine, one of 2 Broncos with a 9.95 here tonight.
Wow, absolutely huge vault from Emily. You see, just like Maddie on the vault before, she had straight lines in the air. And just a rebound from the extra power that she had. Just goes to show she's a powerful gymnast. Absolutely beautiful job. She flared out her arms to find that landing and almost had it.
After a career best 9.925 on the uneven bars a week ago, a redshirt senior from Laguna Hills, Hannah Nip, is up next for Coach Bauman and the Flippin' Birds.
Hannah Nip is a beautiful gymnast to watch on this event. She has beautiful lines, always knows how to land that dismount. And she has so much experience too. This is her 5th year of gymnastics, and I think her 5th year of competing in the bars lineup. Beautiful shoot over to handstand, straight into a toe hacked combination. Got that stick, just a little bit of a step backwards, but altogether, not much else wrong with that routine.
We head back over to the vault. Scores starting to trickle in. Maciedo a 9.8 on vault. Nilsson a 9.825, avenging her fall on the bars earlier, where her teammates more than picked her up. Boise State a 49.5 on the bars to open tonight. And this is Samantha Smith.
Another big Yurchenko full from Boise. They've all got such great power. She had a little bit of a bigger hop there at the end, but great form, great distance, which are 2 things you want to look for in these vaults.
And how hard is it when you're doing a vault? You're obviously having to put power into your routine to get amplitude and distance, but then you're also trying to stick the landing. How do you balance those sorts of things as a gymnast?
It's very technical, and a lot of times we say in gymnastics you can't focus too much on the landing. You got to focus on what comes before, but you see these gymnasts flaring out their arms and trying to keep their bodies in a straight line to get that landing at the end.
The first 2 bar scores for Southern Utah, 9.875s for Nikki Thomas and Aubrey Schwartz. And this is Mason Bentley off of a career best 9.925 a week ago, right back in the lineup for Coach Bauman.
She does a unique release move there called a ray, straight into a bail, very difficult, but she gets so much height on it. It looks just so easy for her. Oh, looks like she tried to hold on to that landing with her toes. Just a little bit of a hop forward, but huge amplitude on that ray into her bail. And looks like those handstands are pretty good too, so that should be a great score.
Courtney Blackson is next up, matched a season high on vault a week ago. The sophomore from Elk Grove, California, is our next performer tonight.
Oh, wow. She has that 1.5 vault like we saw from Caitlin Coe with that blind landing. That'll be a 10-0 start. Should be a high score. She only had that little hop on the landing. Great form, great height, beautiful vault from Blackson tonight. She was really looking for that landing. Wow, I'm excited to see the score on that one. Really well done.
Her high score, a 9.95. We'll see if she approaches that. And meanwhile, on the other side, we've got Shai Murakami up next on the bars, who owns the school record from February 21st of this year. 9.975, a 9.9 last week. She's got the highest average in this event on her team, 9.889. Just a tremendous mark for the senior from Las Vegas.
And you'll see why in just a second, because she hits this routine practically the same every time. She's always so consistent in everything she does. Huge Jaeger bail right there. Looks like she was kind of trying to pull her toes up so they didn't hit the ground. Great handstand. You can see that bounce at the top. That's really what you want to look for in those handstands. And just a slight hop forward, but altogether a really clean routine from Shai Murakami.
Finishing up on the vault for Boise State is one of 5 freshmen on the roster for head coach Tina Bird, Alyssa Vulage.
It's always a fun spot to be in, the anchor spot, and especially impressive as a freshman. Awesome ball. Another 10-0 star value for the Broncos, or round off entry full on pike off, just with a hop at the end, but beautiful form. Again, the distance. The Broncos really had a great ball rotation tonight.
Now she's had a 9.9 or higher in 2 straight meets on the vault. We'll see if she can follow that up with another strong performance. And rounding things off on the bars, it is Carly McLean. A late switch there for Coach Bauman was going to be Stephanie Trevort. Instead, it is McLean who set a season high with a 9.85 last week on her uneven bars routine.
Carly is a great person to have in this anchor spot, because not only is she consistent and clean in her bar routine, but she's also so calm about the way she approaches gymnastics. So this pressure spot, this anchor spot, doesn't really even faze her.
She's just waiting for the go-ahead. And now she's ready to rock and roll.
She'll do a free hip into a Ginger release move. Great height. Looks like she had good distance away from the bar on that catch. Beautiful bail to handstand. Rounding out with another great handstand, just winding up for that double A dismount. Great landing. Altogether, such a beautiful routine for Carly and McLean, and they should be really happy about that bar rotation.
The late lineup change looks like it will pay off for Coach Bauman and the Flippin' Birds. 2 rotations down, 2 to go. Scores continuing to come in. We'll bring them to you inside the America First Event Center in the campus of Southern Utah University when we come back on ESPN Plus. Welcome back to the broadcast setup. Spencer McLaughlin with you. Megan McBride to my right. Maddie McBride to the right of her. The season highs just continue for a bunch of gymnasts here tonight. Carly McLean, a 9.925 on her bars routine. A late lineup switch by Coach Bauman, and one that clearly paid off.
Yeah, it can be tricky when you have those late lineup switches, because you're not you're not really, I mean, you're ready, but it can be kind of a last-minute decision. But Carly's so good under pressure, and she's just always ready.
On the Boise State side, they had Courtney Blackson deliver a superb score herself. She put up a 9.875 following her 9.875 on bars, and she was towards the end of her rotation as well, and both coaches getting really strong performances from some of the anchors in the lineups.
Absolutely, and you put those two 10-0 start by vaults at the end, and you know you're going to get those build scores, especially with that beautiful vault by Blackson. Amazing landing, especially for that 1.5, which can be difficult with the blind landing, but she absolutely nailed it.
So Southern Utah finishes with a 49.375 on bars, a week after they set a program record with a 49.45. But they are looking at a 49.5 on the other side for bars for Boise State, who put up a 49.225 on the vault in that rotation. So Megan, Southern Utah gets themselves back into it just a little bit, but still some work to do if they're going to stay undefeated in dual meets here at home, because Boise State, through and through, top to bottom, they have been looking really, really strong.
Yeah, they are trailing by a little bit, but it's good to keep in mind that it's only been 2 events, and there's so much that can happen in the last 2 events on beam and floor, but it should be exciting. It's going to come down to the little details.
The scores right now, 98.45 for Southern Utah, 98.725 for Boise State. And Maddie, after such a strong performance on the road last week for both of these teams, you expected Southern Utah to be able to come back home, feel comfortable, you know, waking up in your own bed, all that sort of stuff. And you thought they might put out another strong showing. Thus far they have. But Boise State, back-to-back weeks, putting up the scores they have on the road, it's such a hard thing to do.
It's so impressive. I mean, away meets you're expected to do just as well as home meets, because that's the name of the game, but there are some disadvantages to being away from home, and they're just taking it in stride these last 2 weeks. It's very impressive. I'm excited to see their beam and floor rotations for them.
They had 2 9.95s on the bars by Emily Lopez and Emily Mullenhopt, and they had a couple of 9.875s on the vault, courtesy of Courtney Blackson and Emily Lopez as well. So Lopez, really the star here in the early going for Boise State, and third-year head coach Tina Bird. They are looking really strong. She's anchored on both times out.
You know, anytime you're looking at a score above a 9.85, you're just seeing a really, really impressive gymnastics that's being put out tonight by both teams, really.
And Lopez has been getting it done and then some, matching her season high and career high on vault. And on bars, she was absolutely fantastic as well, putting up another 9.875. So Southern Utah behind right now, and in this in-between period, you know, where both sides are getting ready for the next rotation. Maddie, when you look up at the scoreboard as a gymnast, obviously, you know, in gymnastics, it's more about the scores than about the wins and losses, but you're still obviously aware of it as the meet is going along. What are your coaches saying to you at this time when you're down by a few tenths with 2 rotations to go?
Generally, you're not too focused on the scores at this point. You're really focusing on your gymnastics, because the scores aren't something you can control as a gymnast or as a coach. So you're really focusing on doing gymnastics that feels good and gymnastics that you practiced in the gym and performed in meets previous.
Well, Southern Utah is going over to the balance beam, with which Coach Bauman has been absolutely adamant with me that he feels his team is ready to pop there and on the floor at any time. And coming into the season, he thought those would be the strengths of the Flippin' Birds this year, but they've been the 2 lowest averages in terms of on a week-by-week basis. So Southern Utah, even off of a 197 last week, Megan, perhaps feels they still have room left to grow this season.
Which is so impressive, considering that, you know, you have to do well on all 4 events in order to get a score like that. But when you have a coach that says there's still room to improve, that just shows a high caliber team.
So Southern Utah going into the 3rd rotation will be on the balance beam. Boise State will be on the floor, and we're just about 30 seconds or so away from our first routine. 2nd dual meet between these 2 MRGC opponents this season. The last one back on January the 28th. And right now, these teams unrecognizable from the squads that both put up a sub 195, and it's very clear that they have put those scores in the rearview mirror. They've put in the time at practice, wanted to get better, and they certainly have.
Definitely. And both teams have done just that, and I'm excited to see how their scores just keep building, not only throughout this meet, but throughout the rest of the season as well.
Now, Boise State, once they compete here tonight, will qualify to get into the top 20 or top 10, wherever they may fall, on pace for at least cracking the top 15, where they would be if they'd been able to compete in their first meet this season. But right now, their attention is on the Flippin' Birds here inside the America First Event Center, and they are putting on quite a show. And we begin things on the balance beam with Shai Murakami, who a week ago scored a 9.775 for the 4th time this year. And this now her 8th time getting up onto the balance beam. And I have to imagine, Megan, she's just hoping to get a score that's not a 9.775. She's probably tired of seeing that one.
Yeah, and you know that she's totally capable of getting that 9.8, even 9.85 or higher. This is a great routine for Shai. She has a lot of difficulty packed into this routine, so it's actually much shorter than the other routines you're going to see tonight. She starts off with that greatly difficult triple series, back handspring step out, lay out to another back handspring step out. And she does what's called a sheep jump right there, basically where her heels touch her forehead. It's very difficult because it takes your eyes off the beam for just a split second, but she handled it with ease. Aerial tuck full, nailed that landing, so I'm pretty sure that should be greater than that 9.775, so she'll be happy with that.
Well, her coaches talk about her consistency, and that's why she's in the leadoff position. Starts things off strong here in rotation number 3. Our first floor routine belongs to Hope Maciedo. Did not do the floor a week ago, leads it off this week for the Broncos of Boise State.
It's always fun to see new music. You kind of get used to your home team's music, but fun to hear new ones in the arena. Going into her first pass. Round up back handspring double pike. Great control on that landing. Great leap. You can see some gymnasts will take advantage of that little full spin jump out to their knee just to mitigate the deductions on that landing, and great leaps for her though. Second pass, front layout, front full, beautiful controlled landing. She's got great form. Getting into some fun upbeat music as she goes into her last pass. Finishes off. Front handspring Rudy. Great routine. Solid start off for the Broncos.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago was her last floor routine, a 9.575, and she should be in good position to improve upon that score. Rachel Smith is up next on the balance beam, a career best 9.925 last week, part of the flurry of career best scores we've seen for both of these programs over the last 2 weeks.
And Rachel is so solid on this event. She's so calm and confident when she approaches all of her skills. She does a difficult series there, a round off into a layout step out. Not even a deduction there, no balance check or anything. Tourjete split full leap. Looks like she just had a little balance check there. Rachel has so much experience with this beam routine, so she's a great person to put up second, especially following Shailin Murakami, who also has a lot of experience. Round off 1.5 dismount straight to that stuck landing, so that should be a great score for Rachel Smith.
Well, she's following a 9.925 from fellow senior Shai Murakami, who matches her career best. So she's free of the dreaded 9.775.
Just a little better than a 9.775. Just a little, though.
Next on the floor for Boise State, Emma Loyam, the freshman from Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, in North Stars Gymnastics Academy. One of 8 underclassmen on the roster, including 5 freshmen.
routine with a round-off whip, double back, just a little extra power. Looks like she went out of bounds, but that's a hard pass. Generally, you see round-off back handspring where they put their hands on the floor, but she didn't have her hands on the floor on that, called a whip. Good controlled leaps right there. As fun as it is to watch your home team perform in the AFEC, it's always a joy to watch the other team compete because they're just so talented and it's so fun to watch their routines. Absolutely. Going into her second pass. Round off 1.5, front layout. Great control, great height on both of those passes. One last pass. Round up back handspring, double pike, and a fall. Always hard to fall on that last pass, but see what her teammates do to finish out this rotation for her.
Well, Boise State has shown they know how to respond from a fall after the 9-1-5 earlier tonight, 9-1-2-5 from Maddie Nilsson. They followed it up to score a 49-5 and set a new season high. And they'll have to do that once again on the floor. Back over to the balance beam we go, and Haley Voltaggio is up, looking to build on her vault routine from earlier tonight when she scored a 9.825, which was a new career high.
Haley Voltaggio, she is small but mighty. She has a jam-packed difficulty routine here, starting off with this triple series. Back handspring step out with 2 layout step outs.
She knew she hit that one.
Oh yeah, so did the team. There's that required leap pass. So you're gonna wanna see a few things in a beam routine. That series, a leap pass, toe turn, which is what she just performed, a front side move, and then that dismount. I think she got a career high last week at BYU, and she's looking to score really well here too. Round off 1.5 dismount, just a little hop on that landing, but altogether there really wasn't much wrong, so she should be excited about that.
She did have a career best 9.9 a week ago. Would love to get in that ballpark area for the Thunderbirds, who trail in the meet right now at home, have not lost here this year. Defeated Arizona, the 196.55 on the 14th of January. A week later, a 196.45 to get the better of BYU. And most recently on February 11th, a 196.975 against Utah State. But they are dealing with a tough Boise State team, as it looks like there's a conversation happening right now between a BYU coach and a couple of the judges. You wonder if a challenge could potentially be coming. While we wait on that, Shai Murakami, a 9.925 on beam for Southern Utah. Rachel Smith followed it up with a 9.85. And Megan, that is exactly the sort of start that Coach Bauman was looking for his team here in the third rotation.
Exactly. You know you're going to have a good beam set when your leadoff starts with a 9.925. You know, it really doesn't get much better than that. So.
Well, I mean, you could get a 10.
Well, that's true.
You could.
Dropping facts over here. You know, with Shai Murakami, I wouldn't be surprised. She could easily get that.
That is very true. She is definitely talented enough. I think the score just came in for Emma Loyam, an 8.9 after stepping out of bounds and having the fall. And her teammate, Adriana Pop, a junior from Easton, Pennsylvania, will look to pick up her teammate.
As we mentioned on bars earlier with the Broncos having a fall, it can be a little intimidating to follow a teammate with a fall in their routine, but once you get out onto that event, you're just focusing on your passes, on your routine. Looks like she was just a little short on that front tuck to round up back handspring double pike.
Floor this season has been the weakest area for the Broncos, the only event that they're averaging under a 49.
It's important to remember with gymnastics, you have 6 up and 5 counts. So when you have a fall, you're going to want the rest of the gymnasts to be able to hit so you don't have to count another fall. another thing with the floor exercise, you add the element of endurance to this routine, which is a little different from all the rest of the routines with bars and beam. So that adds a little more difficulty to this event. Gearing up for the second pass. Ground up by handspring double back. Again, just a little short on that landing, took a step forward. She just had that 2-pass routine because she had a combination on that first with the front tuck into her first pass.
Hannah Nip is up next on the beam off of her lowest score of the year last week, a 9.725. Her career best, a 9.95, the second best in program history. We'll look to get closer to that number. And as the Broncos struggle here in their third rotation relative to their first couple of events, Thunderbirds have to feel like they've got an opening to gain some ground.
Hannah Nip is just as good on this event as she is on bars. Such smooth and confident gymnastics, and she's the perfect person to put in this lineup. Beautiful flick lay series. No doubt in her mind that she hit that perfectly. They've all had such great control on their flight series on beam tonight. Going into that jump series. Split jump, split 3/4. Maybe just the tiniest little balance check, but I might just be a little bit picky. Gainer back full, just a little bit of a low chest on that landing, but really clean routine from Hannah Nip and altogether a great beam routine for the Flippin' Birds tonight.
Coach Bauman has stressed the importance of his team to continue to attack and be aggressive on the balance beam. Off to a good start so far. Each score at least a 9.85. We'll see what Nip is able to get for her team. And Elena McGovern, a freshman from Richmond, Kentucky, is up next on her floor routine, a 9.65 a week ago.
Starting off with a front 1.5 called a Rudy to a back layout step out. Huge dynamic tumbling. Looks like she's just owning that floor down there. It's so fun to watch. It's when you know they're in the zone, ready to kill this routine. And it's always hard going to an away meet on floor because you don't have that home energy crowd behind you, but that's when your teammates are on the side for you, bringing their own energy. Choreography to catch her breath before her next pass. Second pass, round off back handspring, double back. Great control. Looks like she had a pretty good chest up landing on that. Awesome routine for the Broncos, especially following that fall in the second routine. Should be happy with that.
Adriana Pop had a 9.575, which the Broncos will have to count after the 8.9 from Emma Loyam. So back over to the beam here in rotation number 3. Boise State came into it with a lead of about 4/10, but the Thunderbirds potentially gaining some ground. And Ellie Cachola, who had a career best 9.85 in the second beam of her young career last week, looking to get at that number, perhaps even above it.
As a freshman, it's always hard to push your way into a lineup, especially like a beam lineup. Oh, shoot. Looks like she had a little bit of a, looks like she dropped her shoulders a little bit, leading to a fall. But once you have a fall, especially at the beginning of a routine like beam, you can't dwell on it. You have to just say next and move on. Make sure every routine and every next skill counts. Very difficult standing layout right to a beat jump. Takes a lot of power from those legs to get that around, but she made it look super easy. Another unique leap pass, switch leap to a split jump. Another skill that takes a lot of leg power. Just a little hop on that dismount. That will be a lower score because of that 5/10 deduction on the fall, but looks like they have Ruby Hernandez up on beam and for that final spot, so we'll hope she pulls in a clutch routine.
Blake Pascal's up next on floor, another freshman for Boise State.
Sounds like this is a younger team for the Broncos this year with 3 freshmen in this floor lineup so far. Starts off with a round up back handspring double back. Tries to go for that stick, just a little step forward.
I feel like we're in the Great Gatsby.
Beautiful leaps, just a little step forward on that landing. Going into her second pass right here. Round off back handspring, 1.5 front layout. Generally, you'll see gymnasts do a round off straight to the 1.5. So with that back handspring, it just makes it a little more dynamic. Gearing up for that last pass. Front handspring, front Rudy to a split jump. Beautiful height on all of her passes tonight. Great routine for the Broncos, just solid all around. Don't have much to say about that.
McGovern, the highest score on floor right now for Boise State, a 9.875. One performer left, and all eyes right now on Ruby Hernandez. This is just the second beam of her career, her first of the season. In the only other time she stepped onto the balance beam, she scored a 9.75. And you have to imagine she's doing everything she can to forget about the pressure that is on her here following the fall from Ellie Cachola.
Yeah, this is probably about the most pressure situation you can be in. The person before you falls and you're the anchor on the lineup. So, especially when she doesn't have as much experience as the other girls, but I've seen her beam and it's beautiful. Beautiful series right there. Just a tiniest little bobble check. You just got to think one at a time when you're on the balance beam. It's just you and the beam, no one else. It's critical here for this last spot following a fall just to say next, next, next. Keep breathing onto the next skill. She did have a fall there. It looks like she just had dropped her chest just a little bit too much. So they will have to count one of these scores, either the 9.725 from Ellie, and depending on how well Ruby scores, they might count that one as well.
That's a 9.275 from Ellie Cachola that Hernandez is following right now. We'll see if she can beat that. But a couple of falls for the Thunderbirds as that balance beam continues to be the one event that Coach Bauman feels his team has got the most room to improve. Either that or the floor, but right now the floor will have to be very strong for Southern Utah. After 4 strong routines, couple of falls there to close the third rotation, but Boise State sends out their final floor routine performance of the night, and it's Courtney Blackson.
We saw Courtney Blackson's impressive power on her vault earlier, so I can only imagine her floor is going to be the same. Front handspring, front double full. Very impressive pass. That's an E pass. That'll get her lots of extra bonus in her floor routine. See a gymnast start out with an E pass, you just get more excited to see what other passes they got up their sleeve. Looked like a round off whip half front full. Another unique pass we haven't seen any pass like that from the Broncos tonight.
This is the third and final event that the sophomore from Elk Grove, California will compete in here tonight. Already a couple of 9.875s on her vault and bar routines.
We've seen all those gymnasts have had a required leap pass, just as Megan's been saying on beam. She's finishing out with her third pass. Front handspring, front Rudy. Looks like we've got a front tumbler. It's so impressive. Great routine from Courtney. Amazing power, great control. Score should be good for that one.
So the scores still trickling in after strong starts on the first two rotations. Both sides falter a little bit on rotation number 3. The fourth and final change of events inside the America First Event Center when we come back. Ride with me on ESPN Plus. After a sluggish start to that third rotation, Boise State looked like they were going to give some ground. They end up gaining some ground instead after the Thunderbirds have a couple of falls there at the end of that beam routine. And as we go into the final rotation here, it is still certainly anybody's meet, but it is one where Southern Utah feels they could be closer than they currently are.
It's definitely hard when you have 2 falls, especially at the beginning of such a great beam lineup. You start with a 9.925, so it's hard to round it out with 2 falls. Kind of decreases the energy moving into floor, but if they, they have to shake it off and just bring the energy for floor and move on.
Southern Utah goes in decreasing order for their scores. A 9.925 from Shai Murakami. That started things off strong. A 9.85 from Rachel Smith. And then Voltaggio a 9.875. Nip a 9.825. But then Cachola 9.275. Hernandez a 9.00. Those are the scores the Thunderbirds don't want to remember. But this routine from Shai Murakami, what you just come to expect from a talented gymnast like her.
Yeah, she's a great person to start off this beam routine because she's going to hit every time, and it's just so clean and precise, everything that she does.
And for Boise State on the floor, it was Elena McGovern, the 9.875, who really anchored things, and not the strongest rotation we'll see from either side, but McGovern was more than solid for the Broncos.
Definitely a solid routine, especially following that fall, and a little bit of a step forward routine with the second routine following up. But she came back and just hit the routine for her team, which is what you expect from somebody that deep in the lineup.
So as the scores sit right now, it's 147.65 for Boise State, 147.2 for Southern Utah. The Thunderbirds a 48.75 on the balance beam. The event where Coach Bauman felt coming into the year was perhaps their strongest area, has been their weakest at times. Now they average a lower score this season on a weekly basis on floor, and right now they need their floor routines to step up in a big way, Maddie.
Definitely, and it's always an advantage to be at home for the last event for floor. The crowd just gets involved in the routines. It's a lot of energy, and especially following an event that wasn't our strongest, you can rely on these floor workers to get in and do their jobs and to hopefully just put out some solid routines and hit their gymnastics.
And Boise State on the other side of things goes back over to the balance beam, where after perhaps sensing that they were giving some ground early in the last rotation, they finished strong. The Thunderbirds falter ever so slightly. What does that do for the mental psyche of the gymnasts who are going to step up onto the beam for Coach Bird and company?
It's always a little more difficult going from floor to beam because you go from such a higher energy event to one where you kind of need to calm down, calm your nerves. And it's hard not to look at the scores, but as a team who's leading, it's hard not to get excited, So you got to keep your nerves calm and just focus on doing one thing at a time and focus on just hitting good gymnastics.
Well, Boise State's weakest event this season has been the floor. That's out of the way. They go to the balance beam, where a week ago they put up a 49.375, and if they put up a score really anywhere close to that, it should be more than enough to get them a win in a place where Southern Utah has not lost yet this season in dual meets.
Yeah, we are down about 5/10, so, or not 5/10, sorry, I misread that, but we do have a lot of ground to make up on floor, but hopefully we put it out and just hit our gymnastics.
Yeah, it's a 0.45 difference right now, so you're off by 0.05 in your mathematical calculations.
Not good
there.
at mental math, everybody.
But Southern Utah getting ready for the floor routine. and floor and beam have been the areas where Coach Bauman feels that this team has got plenty of talent and depth and is confident in his team's abilities in those areas, but it just hasn't quite all come together. And Maddie, no time like the present for that if you're the Thunderbirds.
Definitely. I feel like if they just take this and run with it, forgetting about beam, they can really do something great tonight.
Well, we'll see what Southern Utah has got on the floor upcoming. The lineup, as it was given to us, has got Kayla Horton, Haley Voltaggio to start things off. First time that we will see the junior Kayla Horton tonight. Voltaggio already has competed with a 9.825 on vault, a 9.875 on the balance beam. We'll see if we do end up seeing both of those gymnasts for Coach Bauman, but the Thunderbirds have got a tall order here in rotation number 4 if they want to stay undefeated here in their home arena. But the student section, as usual, out and about, ready to rock and roll, and this is the rotation that they come for, the home floor routine.
Yeah, this is really the peak of the meet. This is where all the energy just really builds. So it's really exciting to watch the gymnasts compete, but also it's almost just as fun to watch the student section react to how they do. So kind of fun.
Well, 2 of the best gymnastics programs in the country. Coaches Bauman and Bird have done marvelous jobs with their programs. And we start on the balance beam. Alexis Stokes is up first. And her team was certainly stoked with the way she performed on bars earlier tonight. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. She had a 9.9 on the uneven bars. Second straight week she's notched that score. Now she heads over to the beam where she had a 9.8 a week ago.
This leadoff position, especially on an event like beam, and especially on the last rotation, is super important because it really kind of sets the vibe for the rest of the team and how their scores are going to progress.
Both schools coming off their best performances of the season with an even 197 on either side.
Beautiful flick lay series right there. It's always tricky because you want to put your most consistent performers first, but you also want to put them last so that they can get those build-up scores. You know, you're going to get those 9.9, 9.95s at the end with those consistent performers, but you also got to have someone start off where you're confident that they're going to hit. Beautiful toe turn. To any gymnasts watching out there, you all know how toe turns are like the bane of every gymnastics experience. Looks easy, but can trip you up sometimes.
It's like a layup in the open court. Looks easy, but when everyone's watching you and you know it's supposed to be easy, it suddenly becomes very difficult.
I'll have to take your word on that because never been me. Very unique combination right there. She went switch leap straight into a gainer back pike, but she nailed that landing, and that was a great start-off routine for the Broncos.
Coach Bird has got a lot of faith in her senior, averaging just 9.64 this year on the beam, but she leads things off. Looked pretty strong, and our first home floor routine of the night belongs to Kayla Horton, the junior from South Jordan, Utah.
Kayla walks out onto the floor with a smile, and you know she's in the zone, ready to hit this routine for the team. Starts with a round off back 1.5 punch front full. Very difficult combination. Made it look pretty easy there. Any chance you can get to flirt with the judges, it's always a fun idea. Gearing up for her second pass. Just a punch front 1.5. Great control on the landing. When you're watching floor, you're going to want to watch for a few things. You're going to want to watch for dynamic tumbling, great height, good chest up landings, but also the choreography and how they perform.
Nowhere does your personality shine through more than on a floor routine.
Yep. Definitely makes it more fun, that's for sure. Oh yeah. Getting ready for her last pass. That's when you're taking those big breaths. Round off, back 1.5, front layout. Beautiful routine from Kayla, just solid landings all together. Awesome start for the Thunderbirds on this, their final event.
Well, she's feeling good after a 9.825 a week ago, a season high. She's notched that score 3 times this season with her floor routines. I would love to go above it with Southern Utah trailing coming into this 4th and final rotation here inside the AFEC tonight. Second beam worker for Boise State tonight is Talia Little, a sophomore from Rochester, New York, looking to improve on a 9.6 that she had on her balance beam routine a week ago up in Palo Alto, below her season average of 9.76.
Beautiful series right there. You can see throughout the flip, her legs were perfectly straight, toes perfectly pointed. No chance for the judges to take a deduction. Switch leap into a straddle quarter, one of those leap requirements. She did a front aerial to a beat jump for that required front side move. Adding that little flutter kick jump after the end of that front aerial is going to add a little bit of extra bonus to her start value. Going into that dismount, round off 1.5, just the tiniest little hop, but another great routine from the Broncos.
Next up on the floor for the Flippin' Birds, Haley Voltaggio, off a season best 9.825 last week, which is the score awarded to her teammate Kayla Horton with the first floor routine of the night.
We saw Haley on vault at the beginning of this meet with a huge vault, great power, and as Megan said, small but mighty. Excited to see this floor routine from her tonight.
She's also got a 9.875 on the balance beam for the Thunderbirds tonight.
Starts off with a huge round up back handspring double pike. She landed with her chest straight up in the air. Big leaps. You can see she got her 180-degree splits, which is what the judges are looking for on leaps, the split and the control on the landings. Lining up for her second pass. Front handspring, front full, front layout. Awesome control. Haley's been really clean in all of her passes so far. Taking those breaths before her last pass. Round up back handspring, double back. Awesome controlled landing. Beautiful routine from Haley Voltaggio. Thunderbirds are really excited about that routine.
Plenty of plaudits from the fans who once again want a 10. No surprise there.
I think we should let him judge that one. Yeah, we'll take it.
One routine. The fan should get a say. Talk about home court advantage. That would be a new level of it. But coming up next here on the balance beam on your screen is Emily Mullenhopt, the 5th-year senior. Did not do the beam last week, just her second time up on the balance beam this year. She had a 9.8 back on February the 18th against Utah State.
Great series right there. She did a great bar routine earlier, and you can tell just from that series that she has beautiful, smooth, clean, controlled gymnastics, and she's just confident in what she does. A beat jump to a sheep jump, another one that we saw Shylin Murakami perform earlier. Very difficult. Going into that dismount. Oh no. Looks like she was doing her front side move called an aerial. She dropped her shoulders and her chest, which led to her fall.
So Boise State with a fall on this, their 3rd beam worker of the night. Final rotation, and the pressure will be on the 3 teammates who will follow. And they are announcing on the PA right now, a 9.925 for Haley Voltaggio. Gets some applause from the crowd. A new career high for the sophomore from Connecticut High School in New York. She'd set a season best on floor last week, did even better, and now one of the most fun performers you'll see in college gymnastics, Rachel Smith, up on the floor.
You know, the fans say they come to watch floor, but I think they really just come to watch Rachel. I do. Awesome first pass, round off whip to double back. That's a difficult pass, and she does it with ease. Rachel has a very difficult leap combination. You see she does 4 skills connected in a row. Very hard to control, but she did a great job. It's hard to do bad gymnastics when you're dancing to Beyonce. True.
And she's got the crowd and her teammates behind her as well.
The key to floor is just to have fun. And she's going for her second pass. Punch, front 1.5. Awesome control. See the crowd dancing along. How can you not?
A couple members of the football team there in the front row.
It's so awesome. Awesome routine from Rachel. You can hear the crowd's reaction. Everyone's super excited. Just a solid routine. Love to see it.
Well, she follows the 9.925 of Haley Voltaggio, who doesn't just set a career high, but matches Rachel Smith's career best on floor, which is the second best score in Southern Utah history. So Voltaggio having perhaps her best night as a Thunderbird. And over on the balance beam, Emily Lopez, who has been absolutely magnificent for head coach Tina Bird and the Broncos of Boise State. A 9.875 on vault, a 9.95 on bars.
She started off this routine with a great series, and just like Spencer was saying, she's been having a great meet, so that she's the perfect person to put in this precarious situation where she's following a fall from her teammate.
She matched her career high on vault, set a new career high on the uneven bars tonight. Continuing that momentum here in the final rotation.
She just did what's called a front summy to a beat jump. That's one of the front side required skills. Looks like she's going into that dismount. Oh no. Looks like she didn't get quite enough power coming out of that back handspring to finish that 1.5 twist. Under-rotated that and ended up leading to a fall. So they will have to count a fall for Boise State.
It's a 9.35 from Mullenhopt preceding that routine from Lopez. We'll await the scores coming from the judges. Next up on the floor, the senior from South Jordan, Utah, and Bingham High School, owns the school record in this event. 9.95, Carly McLean. 15 times in her career, she scored a 9.9 or higher on floor, including last week in Provo.
Carly's track record on floor is phenomenal. You can always count on her to hit a floor routine, regardless of who came before, who's coming after, wherever she is in lineup. Starting with her first pass. Round off back handspring, double pike. Awesome landing. Second pass for Carly. Round off back, 1.5 front layout. She just floats that layout. It's always beautiful. Here's the required leaps. Awesome controlled landing. Again, that's what the judges are looking for in those leap series. I mentioned before, they sometimes take some time on the floor to really get their breath back before that third pass. So as easy as they make it look, it's really difficult to have 3 passes in a routine and feel like you still have breath for that last one. Yeah, the slow choreography is always appreciated. Going into her last pass, round off back handspring, double back, and she nails that landing. Amazing floor routine from Carly, just what we can expect. And the mic drop. Amazing routine from Carly.
McLean gets a healthy round of applause from the Thunderbirds. This final pass, the exclamation point on another exceptional floor routine. And you could see it in her face that she knew that she delivered what Southern Utah was looking for there. And so back over on the balance beam, following the missed landing from Emily Lopez, Adriana Pop, the junior from Easton, Pennsylvania, had a career best 9.925 last week on the balance beam in Palo Alto. And if she can replicate that, it would go a long way for helping Boise State get this victory.
Because of the 2 falls that Boise has on beam, they will end up having to count a fall and a low score for their final total on beam. So it's really imperative that these next 2 gymnasts hit because they don't want to count any more deductions than they already have.
Southern Utah had 2 falls on the beam, counted the 9.275 from Ellie Cachola en route to a 48.75. That's the lowest event score of the night so far. But still plenty of time to go here in the 4th rotation.
Great front aerial right there. It's always hard to follow a fall, especially when there's been 2 in front of you. But you really can't think about any of that. You just got to think about what skill you're doing next. And very difficult series right there. She went back handspring, step out, back handspring 2 feet to a back layout. Usually that's a skill you see in elite gymnastics, so you don't really see that in NCAA. It's really impressive. If I remember right, that was Shawn Johnson's beam series in the 2008 Olympics. I think so. Something like that. Into a back gainer full, a hit routine for the Broncos. They're going to start getting that momentum back up after those falls.
Aubrey Schwartz is up next on the floor, gets plenty of crowd interaction and matched her season high on the road in Provo with a 9.875, averaging a 9.821 on the floor this year. We'll look to keep it rolling.
Aubrey starts out with a unique combination with this front pass. Front handspring, front Rudy, back layout, step out. Oh, I apologize. Her first pass, front handspring, front double full. Another difficult pass.
I was going to correct you, but you got it.
I corrected myself. I should know better. We'll let you do the next one.
That's okay.
Great leaps from Aubrey. That's what you would call party time for Aubrey. Going into our next pass. Here's that pass I was talking about earlier. The front handspring, front Rudy, back layout, step out. Just a beautiful pass. Nothing to say about that except great floor routine. Exactly what the Thunderbirds are looking for this deep in the lineup on floor.
Already a 9.825 from Kayla Horton, a 9.85 from Rachel Smith, a 9.925 from Haley Voltaggio on the floor for the Thunderbirds with a 9.85 for Carly McLean. So we'll see what score pops up for Aubrey Schwartz. In the meantime, back on the balance beam is Emma Loyam. It looks like they made a substitution here, and it is actually Maciedo, excuse me, who will indeed compete the all-around here tonight. So a late lineup change from Tina Bird.
She had a pretty significant bobble there, but she stayed on the beam, and that's what the Broncos are wanting right now.
She hasn't competed the all-around since February 5th against BYU, when she scored an even 39. Maciedo thus far tonight, a 9.8 and a 9.85 so far. I apologize, she did not compete on bars tonight. And so she finishes up her beam routine, and Boise State has no more gymnasts left to compete. And the final routine of the meet, Thunderbirds looking to avenge their loss in Boise back on January 28th. And Hannah Knipp is closing things out for the Flippin' Birds.
A fifth-year senior, a veteran competitor. We can expect great things from Knipp tonight on the floor. And the first 5 scores in front of her are all great, 9.85 or higher, so she can really just go out and have fun right now. No pressure. It's a great position to be in. Starting with her first pass. Round up back handspring double pike. Beautiful. Nothing much wrong with that. You get that first pass out of the way and you can relax a little. Just start having fun, get in the zone.
Also easy to relax when in front of you, Aubrey Schwartz puts up a 9.9.
Going into her second pass. Front handspring, front full, front layout. Beautiful. She really extends through her legs there, and just great form in the air as well. Fun little crowd interaction there. Great leaps from Knipp. You can have a little step out of them just to show that it's a controlled step. Knipp did a great job with that. Going into that last pass. Round up back handspring double tuck. Beautiful! Amazing chest up controlled landing. Wasn't much to take on that floor routine. Awesome anchor for the Thunderbirds tonight on floor.
Even as it stands before Hannah Knipp's score, it's a season high on floor for Southern Utah. Will it be enough to come back and stay unbeaten at home this season in dual meets? We'll find out as the scores matriculate in. Keep it here on ESPN+. Center, a powerful and perhaps exceptional last rotation for Southern Utah might just propel them to the win. We are still waiting on the final scores, but you see there, Hannah Knipp scored a 9.95, which matches her career best, which ties the SU record with teammate Carly McLean, who herself tonight delivered a 9.85. And it looks like here on the floor, Maddie, the Thunderbirds are going to drop a 9.825 from Kayla Horton, who started that rotation very strong. It's a great way to begin, and the Thunderbirds end up with a 49.475 is what it reads on the scoreboard right now. Their best floor routine of the season.
Kayla Horton definitely did start off the Thunderbirds strong, and it's so impressive when you can drop a 9.825 because that's a healthy score on floor. Here we're watching Hannah Knipp's last pass. Just amazing chest up, no deduction last pass.
Please welcome back to the America First Event Center.
And it sounds like we're getting ready to get the final scores. It is alumni night here inside the America First Event Center. Some SUU gymnastics alumni in the house, 2 of them sitting next to me, of course. I mean, you 2 are going to be here regardless, I would hope, but plenty others in the house tonight to watch some really high-level gymnastics that started incredibly strong, Megan, with those first 2 rotations on both sides over 49. Then the third, both sides had some stumbles, couple falls, weren't quite as sharp, but Southern Utah especially picked it up there with their floor routines.
Yeah, they started off really strong with Boise State on bars and Southern Utah on vault. They did have a few falls and a few falters on that third rotation, but Southern Utah did a great job picking up that energy and really putting their best gymnastics out there.
Southern Utah went into that 4th rotation trailing by about 4/10, but a 49.475 compared to a 48.525 for Boise State on beam. That has been the Broncos' best event of the season statistically on a week-to-week basis, averaging about a 49 109.110. So, Maddie, very uncharacteristic for the Broncos, and certainly a difficult thing to be able to do on the road, but still one that Coach Bird certainly expects her team to be able to perform better in the future.
Definitely. Sometimes it's hard to swallow a meet like this for the Broncos with their beam rotation not being up to their normal standard, but with the history they've had in their previous meets, with their beam rotations being really stellar, that's something they don't have to worry about. They can move past it and just brush it off and continue to do the beam they know how to do.
Well, we're getting ready for the final scores. Let's tune you in now to the PA announcer who is standing by, and they're tallying up all of the final scores down there here inside the America First Event Center in the campus of Southern Utah University, and what was a pretty thrilling final rotation. And as we await that, Megan, what does it say about this Southern Utah team? They come in ranked 17th in the country. Boise State not ranked, but they will be once they have the necessary number of meets after tonight. Playing a good team, you're going up against an opponent can put up really high scores, a 197 a week ago, and Southern Utah trailing going into that final rotation, but the mental fortitude that they showed tonight to be able to come out, it looks like they'll get the win.
It just shows how resilient they are to go from a rotation where they have 2 falls, they have to count a fall, and to come back and to perform, some of their best gymnastics of the season on floor, just shows how resilient they are and how mentally tough they are, able to push back those falls and to really just shine on the floor.
And here come the scores rolling in as we speak.
Also from Boise State with a score of 9.875, Emily Lopez. And from Southern Utah, tying for event champion with a score of 9.875, Rachel Smith. Next, the individual results on the uneven parallel bars. In third place from Southern Utah with a score of 9.925, Carly McLean. And tied for event champion from Boise State with a score of 9.95, Emily Mullenhot. Also from Boise State with a 9.95 and tying as event champion, Emily Lopez. Next, the individual results on the balance beam. In a 3-way tie for third place from Boise State with a score of 9.85, Talia Little. Also with a score of 9.85 from Boise State, Alexis Stokes. And rounding out the 9.85s from Southern Utah, Rachel Smith. In second place, setting a personal record with a score of 9.875 from Southern Utah, Haley Voltaggio. And your event champion, also setting a personal record from Southern Utah with a score of 9.925, Shailen Murakami. The individual results on the floor exercise. In third place, setting a personal record with a score of 9.9 from Southern Utah, Aubrey Schwartz. Also setting a personal best in second place with a score of 9.925 from Southern Utah, Haley Voltaggio. And your event champion, scoring a 9.95, a personal best and time at team best from Southern Utah, Hannah Nick. And finally, the results for the team scores. In second place, with a score of 196.225, Boise State. Meaning in first place with a final score of 196.675, your very own Southern Utah University, Flippin' Birds.
The Thunderbirds victorious once again, unbeaten in their home arena. They split with Boise State for the second straight season, 196.675 to 196.225. The final scores. Hannah Knipp ties the school record on floor with a 9.95. Voltaggio a 9.925, the second best score in school history. Maddie, that final floor rotation turned out to be a huge one for the Thunderbirds, who trailed going in, and with Boise State struggling on beam 48.525, under their season average of 49.1, Southern Utah capitalized in a big way and ultimately won by a decent margin.
Yeah, it just goes to show that one rotation can change the meet for good or for bad, and the Thunderbirds really just took it in stride and ran with it and came with their season best on floor, right?
Yes, absolutely. 49.475, besting the 49.325 they set back on February the 18th at BYU. That was a week ago. And Megan, when you look at Boise State, they will now qualify, certainly will be in the top 20 range as a gymnastics program. And they've won conference championships, and they've had an undefeated regular season back in 2016. They're an exceptional program, although they didn't finish the way they wanted to. The area where they probably have to hold their heads the highest with their bars routines.
For sure. You know, I'm sure they didn't expect to come out with that score tonight, but they still have so much good gymnastics to be proud of. Like Spencer mentioned, their bar rotation was top notch. You know, I think 9.85 or better, even with a fall, which is really hard to come back from. So they really should still be proud of their performance tonight, and I'm sure they'll still be top ranked after this meet.
This is the final dual meet of the season for the Broncos. They've got a tri-meet next week before the MRGC championships in a couple of weeks, but Southern Utah has they've got a quad meet next week, then a final home meet against William & Mary upcoming in a couple of weeks before the MRGC championships. And boy, it is certainly starting to get down to that time, Maddie, where you want to be at your best because the championships, the regionals, and all that sort of stuff right around the corner.
Yeah, it's crazy. Season always goes way faster than you think it does, but even with a fall tonight from the Thunderbirds, counting a fall, they still put out a solid score with a mid to high 196, which just goes to show the caliber of the routines that they're putting out, even with the falls that are counting. And same for the Broncos. 196.225 is still an impressive score for counting 1 to 2 falls.
Yeah, Boise State will be at least in the top 20, depending how other schools perform across the country tonight. Southern Utah will raise their season average as well. They came in ranked 17th. We'll see where they end up. You can follow all of that sort of stuff on roadtonationals.com. We'll take a pause. When we come back, we'll continue with the post-game wrap-up. Scotty Bauman, head coach for Southern Utah, is ahead. Keep it here. McLaughlin, Megan, and Maddie McBride with me tonight once again inside the America First Event Center, where the Thunderbirds of Southern Utah get the better of the Broncos of Boise State, 196.675 to 196.225. A strong final fourth rotation for Southern Utah results in a season high on floor, ultimately enough to get them the win. And both of these programs, Megan, were coming off of 197s on the road last week. Boise State, certainly every reason to keep their heads up high with getting over 196 on the road again. They're looking to just, be back in a familiar gym at some point. But Southern Utah, though they didn't replicate exactly the success they had a week ago, another strong performance that Coach Bauman, I'm sure, will be pleased with.
Of course, they did have a few stumbles on beam. They ended up having to count a fall. And as much as you don't want a meet to come down to, the other team leading and you're trailing behind, definitely does make for an exciting night of gymnastics. And I think that's the floor rotation that Scott's been looking forward to. Every girl that they put up hit exactly how they were supposed to, and it led to one of their highest floor scores of the season.
And Southern Utah came into this meet expecting to face a high-level opponent, Maddie, and they certainly did in Boise State. And though we saw a couple of falls on either side, both schools ended up having to count a fall on the balance beam. Boise State had a fall on a landing and a fall off the beam. Southern Utah had two gymnasts fall off the beam, so it was certainly far from perfect, but when the highs were there for both sides, there was some really, really high-quality gymnastics tonight.
Oh, definitely. We saw lots of high-quality gymnastics tonight, and again, as I mentioned before, with the scores both getting mid to high 196s, even with the falls, they're going to be in that 197 range. It just shows their consistency, and when they hit, they're going to be back up in those higher scores like they were last weekend.
And this was the floor routine of Haley Voltaggio, who ties the second highest mark in school history, a 9.925, a career high for the sophomore, and she was sharp from the moment that she stepped onto the floor.
Yeah, she had so much control on her landings, those chest-up landings. That's exactly what the judges are looking for. There really wasn't much to take.
Shai Murakami on the balance beam was exceptional once again, and that has just become standard operating procedure for the Thunderbirds. It's never a surprise when Murakami is hitting her stride on the beam.
Exceptional is the perfect adjective for Shai on any event that she competes on.
And this was our first event of the night. Haley Voltaggio started things off with a 9.825 on the vault. She has a 9.875 on the beam as well, with her 9.925 on the floor. So what a night for the sophomore. And there you see just a little bit of the jump on the landing for Shai Murakami there. But I want to go back to Haley Voltaggio, just a sophomore in this Thunderbird gymnastics program. And Megan, she had maybe her best all-around performance of her career here tonight, and came up big when Southern Utah needed her most.
She just looked very solid and confident in all of her gymnastics, and especially on vault. It's so impressive for a lead-off gymnast, especially one with not as much experience as the other gymnasts, to lead off and also get the high score on vault, especially at the very, very beginning of the meet. You know, those are when the scores are typically lower, so when you see a score like that at the beginning, it's always so impressive.
And strong starts were pretty common for the Thunderbirds tonight. We saw a 9.925 at the start, and the floor that ended up being the highlight for the T-Birds here tonight, Maddie, started with a 9.825 from Kayla Horton, and you just would not have guessed with the way things had been going. The way things had been going for the Flippin' Birds, you would not have guessed they would throw out the 9.825, but that is how deep this team is, how talented they are, and shows the mental fortitude they've got.
Yeah, you start off strong with a 9.825, and they just kept building from there, and that's exactly what you want to see from a floor squad. And like we mentioned, that's exactly what Scott's been waiting for.
And he has been adamant with me really all season long that he's waiting for the floor routine to pop. He knows the team is talented, that they just haven't been able to put it together. Well, tonight they did, and at the moment when they needed it the most to stay unbeaten here in their home arena, they send the fans home happy on alumni night, which is what we're watching down on the floor right now. Scotty Bauman is in the middle of them, getting all the plaudits that he deserves. Over 30 years he's been the head coach, has completely rewritten the record books with the gymnasts that he has coached, team scores, individual event scores, you name it, and Coach Bauman has been a part of history here in Southern Utah. Over 30 years here in Cedar City. He actually has a sushi roll named for him at Ninja, a sushi restaurant in town. I've had it. It's quite good. It's quite good, by the way. And that's a phenomenal sushi restaurant through and through. But before we get distracted and turn into the Food Network here, he has just done such a marvelous job as the head coach.
You know, I don't know if you could hear what they were doing on the floor. They have all the alumni around the floor, and he screamed in the middle, "One family," and everyone yells, "One fight." And that's been the mantra of this team for 30-plus years. And when they're down on the floor as a team, you can totally see that. They are one family, working together, fighting together to do their best gymnastics.
Well, we won't hear from him tonight. He is busy with some extracurriculars, so that is it for us on the broadcast. Southern Utah avenges their loss from earlier this season up in Boise. They knock off the Broncos 196.675 to 196.225. For our entire production crew, did a marvelous job, as always, tonight. That is Megan and Maddie McBride. To my right, Spencer McLaughlin saying so long from Cedar City. It's been a production of ESPN. All games streaming live are archived in the ESPN app. See you next time, and have a wonderful rest of your night.